Welcome to my review of Atomic Heart. So, I just got about 6 hours into Atomic Heart. It's a game about this random Russian dude who's a KGB agent, which I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because it's something long in Russian and I don't care. And this is his buddy, his hand, which seems to have its personality of its own. Now, they're dynamic throughout the game. I didn't mind. For some reason, he's really obsessed with saying crispy critters, even though you really only kill a few things that are actually considered critters. Most of the time, you're fighting robots, which kind of puts it in this weird balance because the dialogue sometimes hits, sometimes doesn't. It sometimes doesn't make sense at all. And that's an issue when the next real main character that you meet in this game is this vending machine bot. And the first time you meet it, it's like trying to molest you as hard as it possibly can. It's got you up in the air, and you have to take one of its tentacles and stick it to your tentacles. And it's like, yeah, feed me with your polymer. And it's just really uncomfortable because you're getting raped by a machine almost. And then after that, it's a 50-50 coin flip whether this game is going to say really dirty stuff to you or it's going to say absolutely nothing other than what a vending machine would say, like, do you want ammo? Do you want upgrades? And then it's like, I want you to fill me up and beat me hard. And I'm like, what? It's like a bipolar machine. It's like they decided to only write enough dialogue to only work some of the time. If you're thinking that, oh, well, I didn't come into this game for character work. I came into this game for great shooting with robots. The sad thing is, the shooting in this game is overwhelmed with a bunch of other bad mechanics. Mechanics that in other games have been annoying in the past, such as self-healing enemies, where they always had that flying thing come in and heal the enemies. When Halo did that, I thought it was one of the dumbest mechanics of all time, and I don't know why these companies keep thinking that people, oh, well, you just killed that robot. You obviously want to kill it again after you just wasted all your resources. No, nobody likes that. And it would be fine if guns and your attacks seem to actually do damage, but they don't. Everything is spongy. I didn't even play this game on hard. I played it on the normal difficulty, and everything felt like it had like 8,000 lives, and it felt like I had to use all my ammunition all the time. Shot pinpointing only works some of the time. It's just this wild mess of combat that sometimes works, but most of the time you're dealing with annoying enemies or gimmick enemies. And it's just awful. It's like going outside in the middle of winter and shoving snow up your dick hole. This game's marketing cycle lied to us. Simply put, it made everyone think that it was going to be the next BioShock or System Shock. And it's nothing like that. Even the world that we all thought was gonna be a very similar alternate world that was created because the regular world wasn't good enough type thing for Russia, but it's nothing like that. If anything, it's more of an alternate history like a Wolfenstein. But it doesn't ever land. The world's fine enough. It's just you have this world and this dialogue to make you think you're playing a Wolfenstein or a BioShock. But the mechanics of the actual action of the game feel like a survival horror game. So you have this play style that's combating the entire world building. So you're having this internal conflict whether you like the fighting or like the world or like neither. And when you're having that conflict, it really puts a stain on what could have been a really enjoyable experience. If you would have said, okay, we want this survival horror game with robots and weird zombies. Okay, make the dialogue a little darker, keep the world as is, but really push in that darkness of what this beautiful world was to what it's became. If you don't like that, you want it to be more like BioShock, make it this real combat heavy, lots of weapons, lots of combat encounters. The powers actually feel like they have a lasting effect, but they don't. Nothing really lands in this game. It's trying to be a million things at once and not accomplishing any of them well. It's like having sex with a limp dick, you know? You go in, but you're not accomplishing anything. She's not getting any pleasure out of it. You're not getting any pleasure out of it because you drank too much whiskey, now you can't get it up. That is this game. It can never get itself up. The next huge inconsistency in this game are the door locks. You have your traditional Fallout style unlock the door thing, which you only run into one of those at the beginning of the game, and your hand reaches in and you gotta adjust the lock however to pick it to open the door. And then you run into these things. These things are all over the place. And that wouldn't be an issue if they were similar. You have some that are like this one right here where you have to snap consistently. Then you have ones where you have to move this little light colored ball in different areas to match the thing, which those two I don't hate completely. They're not bad. At first I didn't like the snapping one, but once I got a feel for it, it wasn't bad. But then there's ones where it's like, oh, you gotta go find a piece of paper. It's over in this one dude's, next to this one dude. And then so I was like, okay, I'll go pick that up. I went and pick it up. As soon as I pick it up, I can't look at it anymore. So I get to this weird push button combo lock, and I have no idea on how to open it because I can't look at that paper anymore. I had to look up a guide, and the guide said don't pick up the paper. Why would you put a mechanic like that in the game? Why would you give me the option to pick it up if it was going to lock me in place? Because I couldn't go back to a previous save because I had just saved prior to that, and my save before that was way back. Because the save points in this game are few and far between. Then you have ones where you have to go fetch something and bring it back. Which, this game has some of the worst fetch mechanics I've ever played. And they all deal with unlocking doors. It's just all over the place. It needs to pick a style and stick with it. There was only one puzzle where they actually pick something and stick with it. Next type of puzzle you're going to run into constantly, and to be fair, it does fix the things I didn't like about the last one. It's always the same thing. It's twist this thing there, twist that thing there. You got one that spreads them, and it's always the same. The problem is, it kind of sucks. And every time you hit one, you're like kind of just doing a guessing game. You figure out the pattern, but it's just not fun. And that's really a big detriment to the game when it's putting these puzzles all over the place, and most of them aren't that great. And the problems with these puzzles go way beyond just opening doors. There's going to be sections like this one early on in the game where you're moving a ball through tubes. And I didn't hate this. It wasn't like the worst thing ever. It was incredibly tedious because the ball moves slower than molasses dripping onto your girlfriend's body when you're having sex. It's just like not ever really making you feel like much is happening. And I mean, I will give it that the variety it's trying to throw in is interesting, but it's not interesting for the game style you're going for. If it would be fine if this is like a Portal or, I don't know, like God of War. God of War had a really great balance of great puzzle game, great action game. But the puzzles felt engaging. And I'm not talking about Ragnarok, because Ragnarok was just throw axe at light spot and be done. I'm talking about like God of War 3. But this game, it just has this confusing, lots of different puzzles. Some of them are great, some of them are the worst thing ever, and it just really never lands. And you want your puzzle to land. I've covered the first two core gameplay aspects of this game, but there's a third. And this third, they really like to shove at you, even though it is the biggest highlight of Eurojank in this game. And it's the platforming. There's a huge misconception when it comes to first-person shooters that you can't have good platforming in them. People look at the Fallouts and the older, like, Time Splitters and old Halos and stuff like that. But even if you look at Halo Infinite's campaign, it had some pretty good platforming. As well as Titanfall 2 has some of the best platforming you'll ever get in a game, just ever. This game wants it to be like that, but it never hits. It'll say, hey, jump from this area to this area, but hit dash so you get a little bit further on that double jump. The problem is you'll go to do your running jump, and you'll press the A button, and it'll do nothing. It's so finicky and all over the place that it makes platforming an absolute nightmare. I would rather do the platform puzzles than Fallout, which those are always the worst missions in those games. When Bethesda's like, you should enjoy our jumping sections, and you're like, well, I don't. This game's like, you have to do them all the time at any session we decide it'll be fun. For us, it'll be fun because we'll be watching you idiots fail constantly and constantly. And that is where this game's Eurojank just really shines. There's a whole section of this game where you're in a little train area. I couldn't really find a good quality picture of it for the background, But you're doing essentially this puzzle where you're shifting rails around to get this big train car into a giant plant, and the jumping in this section just never works. You are constantly falling to the ground. I used more health in this section than I did in most of the game, and the enemies are bullet sponges that deal a lot of damage. But I was falling so much because the jump button rarely works that it made this section a chore. Now, I don't want you to think that the first thing that made me feel the Eurojank was just the platforming, because the shooting has it. Everything in this game is just completely Eurojank. It's like going to a Turkish bathhouse and getting an STD. It is authentically European. I hated it. The first time I really felt it, we were in this weird plant room, and you have to shoot these things before they go up into the fans. You can see one of them right there. And the shooting's not great, so you're always missing because it's janky as hell. This game, if you were to be like 15 years in the future and my son asked me, "Hey Dad, what's Eurojank?" I would download this game and force him to play it, and he would understand instantly. And I have this odd feeling that people in the future are actually going to look back at this game and call it a hidden gem, when it should be called a mistake in trash. It should be like melted down into oblivion. I don't understand why this game exists other than to be a janky mess of an existence. And for my final score of this game, it becomes the Hasan Piker of video games. Utterly useless and completely full of crap. Thank you guys for all watching my videos. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to my channel. I hope to give you more game reviews. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.